And get up here to, whoops. Okay. Here's our agenda. So this is where we are today. We're going to start with session 3 from the student manual there. Talk about who are our customers, and then talk about how to meet expectations. We're going to go over your goal setting homework. Then we're going to have a session on communication skills, and then we're going to start the discussion on dealing with difficult customers. There's a couple sections in the manual about dealing with difficult people in general, customers and people. And so that was one of the things that you guys pointed out is something that you'd like to explore. So I've got the session 11 dealing with difficult customers, and then the follow-on session we're going to do for homework. So let's go ahead and start talking about who are our customers. And we started talking a little bit about this on Friday, differentiating internal and external customers. I've got this thing on my screen that I can't make go away. There we go. So we talk about customers in terms of internal customers and external customers. In my former life, I had a whole lot of internal customers when I worked at Aberdeen Proving Ground. These are the people, the departments or agencies served by what we do. These are the people who we coordinate with, the people we work with on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of times we don't think of these people as customers, but in fact they are, especially if they're part of your team. If you're on a team and you rely on one another, so that the team can succeed, then everyone is everyone else's customer as part of that team. And we all have at least one internal customer, and that is our boss. And I don't know how many of you have ever thought about your boss as a customer before. Has anyone ever thought of their, Joan, you've thought about your boss as a customer. Are you talking,
Sure.
are you talking about in your life today or in your previous life?
Well, I would say right now my customers are my boss, but in my previous life, definitely my boss was my customer.
Yeah. Um, to tell you the truth, I uh, I really never thought of my bosses as my customers before. In the way that I thought about coworkers and actual customers as customers, and that was probably a mistake on my part. Um, and then we also might have internal customers in form of the people that we supervise. How many of you people have people who you supervise, people who work for you? Yeah, you can wave your hands or you can put something in the chat or whatever. Do you think of them as customers? Have you ever thought of them as being customers? Britt is shaking her head no. Unmute, Britt.
I mean, now that I'm listening, I can see how I could or should.
Mhm.
But no, I haven't.
Yeah.
Now I have to be nicer to him. No, I'm just kidding. No, but it makes sense, in the respect of respect,
Mhm.
handling them, not handling, that's not a good word. When we're working together, making sure that their needs are met, that I talk to them in a professional tone, the same way I would talk to clients. I mean, obviously, I'm a little bit more personable with them.
Mhm.
I wouldn't have the same discussions I have with them as I would a client. But as a
Mhm.
manager for 5 years, it's been such a learning experience that that's probably something I could change to be a little bit more professional, I think.
Do you ever find yourself saying to them, giving them something to do and saying, then if you have a problem, if there's a problem that's getting in your way that you can't resolve, come see me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe that is one of the things that puts us into that customer service mode. Now you're helping the person who you supervise be successful. And then there are also uh, leadership styles. People will have, certain leadership styles. And, if you have the leadership style that puts you in the mindset of being like a coach, um, or someone who supports the people they supervise, you might take that customer service attitude toward. So Bill says, I think he also thinks of his boss as a coworker, same team, different jobs. Could you explain that a little?
I'm sorry, I did not mean to detract from what you were saying. I
That's
was
okay.
just talking to Terry about that because I guess I had the same reaction when you said we should think of the boss as a customer. And obviously, I'm missing a good deal of material.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, I guess I'm thinking the definition of a customer might be one who is served. And so, in that sense, obviously, yes, on behalf of the mission, I'm former military, so it's always in those terms. But on behalf of the mission, my boss demands certain things from me, and so I provide those things to her, which then serves the greater mission. I've just never thought of it in a subservient sense, I guess. I just always thought of it in different roles, like the lieutenant isn't better than me. I'm just have a different job than the lieutenant.
I see.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe I think one of the key words that you said there was subservient. Um, do you think that you need to be in a subservient, quote unquote, subservient role to provide service?
No, no, on the contrary. I think that yeah, so I'm sorry. I guess I was taken off guard by getting attention. So I think that when we're talking about serving the public, I guess one of the things I think of for customer service and how to properly serve people is to treat people with dignity. And I think that in a lot of ways, you can't do that if you are being subservient and, you know, oh no, sir, whatever you want, sir, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I really don't. I really don't think that that's possible to. Really treat somebody with dignity if you're in that position. And I guess the question of dignity has never come up between me and my boss, Linda. So
Mhm.
I mean, I guess I've always thought of her as being dignified, and that's never come into question. So I think it was more along those lines of like, well, the dignity is there, and of course we are serving the mission.
Right.
I think that's really all that I was trying to say, and I was really only trying to piggyback off what Harry was saying because obviously we know each other. We work together in the same office. So
You say you were in the military before?
yeah.
What branch?
The Navy.
Oh, cool. Joan and I worked at Aberdeen Proving Ground for a number of years.
Oh, okay, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
It was cool sometimes.
Yeah.
You got a lot of big guns that are always firing.
Yeah. Well, actually, Joan and I worked in Edgewood with the chemical people, so we had a different set of concerns down there. But yeah, I worked at Aberdeen, the Aberdeen area, for a number of years, and uh, the guns made life interesting. So now external customers, these are the ones you probably traditionally think about as customers. These are the people, departments, or tenants who are on the user end of our products and services. This is more traditional. Whoops. And given that some of you, I know that when we talked about this last time, most of you work with external customers, mostly, some even exclusively. And I think only Karen was the only one who primarily focuses on internal customers. But is there anyone who doesn't have both? Is there anyone who could say that they don't have both internal and external customers? Because I'm curious about this. Um, if we consciously or unconsciously, after we think about it, do we tend to treat internal and external customers differently? Or do you apply the same principles to dealing with each, to supporting each?
I think it depends on the leverage they have over you. You know, an external customer is going to have financial leverage,
Mm-hmm.
whereas an internal customer, it may be different. It may be political.
Mm-hmm. I uh, I kind of look at things the same way, regarding, you know, the whole leverage aspect. Um, I'm curious about those of you who, after we went through the personality assessments last week, those of you who are driven by a sense of altruism, the sense of selfless service. I wonder if is that the same for you? Or does your sense of selfless service drive you to treat everyone pretty much the same way when it comes to customer support?
That's a good question.
Does anyone remember their results to where they can say? Because we had a whole lot of folks that were driven by altruism. Karen says she tries to deal with everyone equally. Yeah. I, I think probably if you are driven by a sense of altruism, because I'm driven by a sense of economics, and I try not to do this, but probably at the back of my head, I do have sort of that leverage mentality going in, thinking about, you know, how do I assess my relationship with this person relative to my other relationships? And that's probably, go ahead.
When like I said, I try to treat everyone equally because
Mhm,
every person is unique. Now, of course, my internal customers I know better
mhm.
because I've worked with them for 8 years. Some of them at least 8 years, and so I know them better. So there's a difference, a comfort level that's different.
Right.
I wouldn't treat an external customer differently.
Hmm.
Consider leverage important. I consider their needs important. So, that's where my driver is what is that individual's need, no matter external or internal.
Right. This, because we did, you know, sort of segue into this, when we start talking about leverage. This introduces the concept of a quote unquote VIP customer. Do you think of any of your customers as VIP customers?
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
My boss.
I do. Like, because I feel like you always have those ones that you start to know.
Hmm.
They come back, so I'm like, how nice. That's, start to know them.
Yeah. When in Joan and my world, when you have a lot of different customers, you tend to segment them into uh, various ways, and one of the ways you segment them is uh, you know, how much business they're giving you. So, you know, I've got maybe 20% of my clients give me 80% of my business, and they become sort of by default my VIP quote unquote customers because they're the ones that I can probably generate more business with over time. Is there a downside to this mindset of having segmenting and having VIP customers?
Well, I can agree that it could be, but when I look at the VIP customer, I give you a perfect example. We had a guy that would come in every Monday at 8 o'clock.
Hmm.
When we missed him for 2 Mondays, I personally called his home to see if he was okay.
Yeah,
Though- So it's all an arrangement of what you expect from them sometimes.
right. So you're saying that maybe some of your clients, require a little bit more care, direct involvement than others.
Right.
Okay.
Sandy, this is Alan. I think that's really true. And I think that when you give your attention directly to your VIP customers, you have a habit of doing that because many times your performance review rating is based upon how well you relate to those VIP customers and other
Yeah,
external customers.
yeah. You're. We could talk about this particular topic for an hour.
Yeah, we sure could. That's another whole subject.
Right. Um, so this statement here that I just put up, all the people we work with are our customers and deserve VIP treatment. How many of you identify with that statement? How many of you align with that? How, is this a core philosophy of your customer service? Right.
It's a time management approach for me.
Yeah. How, what, could you elaborate on that a little more?
Well, I feel like you have to prioritize your response time, for instance, to certain clients. You know, you're talking about the 80%, 20%.
Right.
Um, that 20% is going to get a faster response. So, yeah, it's a way of prioritizing my day also.
Right. So you tend to deal with your quote unquote VIP customers first?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And yeah.
I worked in an industry as a part-time job in the auction industry, which relied on consignment, which, and repeat consigners. Got to have something to sell in the auction industry.
Right.
And so I was just a clerk. And so I treated everyone that came up to my window the same way, whether they were the most annoying person in the world or they were the best person. Everybody got good customer service because I wasn't going to be the one that they complained to my aunt or my uncle about. It was family business.
Right.
But my aunt and my uncle, as owners of the business, did have a VIP mentality. They had those people who either bought a lot
Mhm.
and put a lot of money, did the buying, or the people that brought good quality items in to sell, because that brought in money. So I did watch them have the VIP mindset, but I myself did not, because I wanted people to come back. And if they aren't happy with the service on the front line, they aren't going to come back. And even if they have a complaint about the auctioneer, the crowd, or whatever, I did my best to try to listen, calm, and, say, oh my goodness, that's awful. I will, let my aunt, my uncle know. But, I didn't do that, but I watched my aunt, my uncle do that.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. So, here are some basic needs that all of your customers have. They want to be understood. They want to feel welcome. They want to feel important. They want to feel comfortable. So, in your experience with your customers, dealing with your customers, are there any other things that you find that your customers want or expect from you?
A lot of times customers want you to do it for them.
And I take it you're not of that mindset.
No. Now, I will assist you, but I'm not going to do it for you.
I think they want you to relate to them and to understand as a business, let's say, some of the hardships that businesses are going through these days. And that in itself can make you more sympathetic to their wants and needs, and to hopefully make them feel more comfortable, more welcome if you can relate to what they're going through, especially these very difficult times.
So, are you saying that they would like you to be able to walk a mile in their shoes, as it were?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
That's my feeling anyway.
What else? What are some other things?
Okay, our VIPs, if you will, are domestic violence victims,
Hmm.
and they want safety. And that's something that governs that entire exchange. You know, that one wrong word and they're up and out of the seat and running away from you.
Oh, have you had any experiences like that?
Yeah, I'll say, I mean, it's not that common, but
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, unfortunately, I have definitely screwed up the DV victim before. Okay, so that sounds bad. Let me rephrase that. I've screwed up my interaction with the DV victim. Uh, you know, and unfortunately, that probably extended their experience.
Whew. I could imagine that was a bad day for you.
Yeah, that's a bad day for me.
Okay, let's move on to the next session here, session 4, meeting expectations. So here are just some basics for meeting expectations. I think this has come up or come through in a lot of what you guys have been saying this morning, is that treating everyone's needs as important needs. Everybody's individual needs are important. And each customer wants to be treated like they are your only customer, so that when you are with them, they want your undivided attention. Uh, a service-oriented philosophy says that you are there for your customer. So one of the things we were talking about last week, um, the aspect of customer service not coming necessarily coming naturally to everyone, and that when we went over our personality assessments, that there were some people who are driven by certain things for whom this service-oriented philosophy comes naturally, like those who are driven by altruism, for instance. So having this philosophy means that you are there for your customer. For some people, it comes more naturally, but it can be an intentional decision on your part, and then uh, proceeding accordingly from that. And then, how do you feel about knowing that customers today are much more demanding than they were 50 years ago? Is your experience that customer expectations are increasing or decreasing?
Um, I definitely feel as though people are very demanding,
Hmm.
definitely more demanding.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, people's expectations are high, they're, with everything going on and, even before, they want certain standards from you, you know, they want to know that you're going to help them and get what it is that they need done, you know?
What else? Does anyone else notice this?
I think a lot of times people who are in desperate positions uh, need psychologically to blame someone. And I think being able to kind of take that blame on behalf of the government and the society at large, that they have fallen through the cracks and whatnot. And I think that that's behind a lot of the misdirected anger and cult shortness.
Mhm.
And so just that's a part of working for the government is realizing that people that are badly off are not happy about being bad off, and that sometimes that comes out, and I am the servant of the people basically. Like we don't put it in those terms, and often you get people who treat it like that because they've. I'm trying not to swear here, but they've been stepped on by everybody else in the society,
Mhm.
and so now they want to do some stepping on people of their own.
Really? Really?
So that's my thought. That's my thought process, and obviously I'm not a doormat, but trying to be sympathetic with their position.
I can
Right.
also agree with William on that aspect, but the other problem is technology. We're doing things technically that a lot of people didn't do years ago. And some do not understand technology, if you want to add my mother in there,
Mhm.
but I'm going to move on. But, and especially a lot of the workforce is older. So, yeah.
Do you think that having technology is one of just the fact that we're sort of on this technological we're riding a technological wave as it uh, is one of the things that increases customer expectations?
Exactly, because they expect us to know how to do it if they can't do it. So it makes it a little more demanding because, they were accustomed, a lot of our customers were accustomed to going into the store, filling out the paper application and getting a job.
Hmm.
Now you have to go to kiosks or have a computer at home or a laptop or something. And they don't understand the technology. But once you get them in the office and kind of sit with them and show them how to go through it,
Hmm.
then I say after 2 weeks of them practicing and trying, then they'll come in the office and do it without your help.
Okay, excellent.
I think that technology has made us more, I think that the demanding part fits into we're more accessible now. I mean, I know for community action standards, we have a Facebook, we have a website, we have contact forms, we have, we've utilized a 24/7 answering machine because we get a lot of complaints that we don't answer our phones quick enough. So I kind of feel like that's where the demand comes for because people think that in the nature of what we do here with rental assistance and homeless services that we should be on 24/7 and it's just not possible. The
Right.
government wants you to make sure you eradicate homelessness and prevent homelessness, but they don't want to give you the money to do that. They just expect that, you should be working 24/7. So I think that our clients think because we have a website, because we have Facebook, that if they're sending you something, you should be responding as quickly as you get it. Like I think that technology has made it a little harder to have established boundaries, and I think that it's harder for, I know myself personally and my staff, we have a hard time establishing boundaries because as soon as we, get an email, we just think we need to jump on it, stop what we're doing to try to get this file off of our desk to help somebody. So I think technology's, made it's, I don't know, it's a slick track to,
Well,
suits.
it definitely gives you a lot more shiny objects to chase
Yeah.
because like you said, when an email pops up, I mean, I'm guilty of this myself. When an email pops up, natural tendency is to answer the email. Uh,
Immediately.
yeah, take care of this right now because it's right there in front of you.
And I think that that's where we have to learn you can still provide good customer service without being accessible 24/7 or, um, doing exactly what someone says right when they're doing it. Like
Mhm.
all of the people that we deal with at Community Action, 90% of them are in crisis. So if you can't get to it today, unfortunately, their crisis is probably going to be here tomorrow. So, if you can't get to the hundreds of people that we see each month, we do our best, but I think you can still provide excellent customer service without being at every client's, every whim. That's just me.
Thank you. So here are just some fundamental things to do, sort of to provide that, to meet sort of the minimum level of expectations. If a phone's ringing, make sure someone answers it. When a customer enters your premises, greet them like you're happy to see them. Be present for your customer. Give them your undivided attention while you're there. Be polite for them. Pay attention to the details. We're going to talk a little bit about how your communication uh, your communication skills and your communication practices can really help connect with the customer and build rapport with them. Always thank them. What else? What else do you use? What are some of the things that you guys use in order to help meet your customers' expectations? Anything else? We talk about this sort of covers an engagement here, the things that happen during an engagement. What about after the engagement? Do you guys how do you guys follow up with your customers?
Phone calls and emails.
Phone calls and emails. Do you ever ask your customer to let you know how you're doing? How you're doing? Are you meeting their expectations?
Yes. And then if they're really happy with me, I just say, write something, say how wonderful I am.
Some folks use customer service surveys.
hmm Karen says she emails and calls a few days later. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on. We're going to start talking about your homework right now. Oh, are there any questions about these two sections before we move on? Okay, so I know everyone did their homework. So let's go ahead and jump into this right now. This is an overview of the procedure of setting goals, and I think that there's a couple of significant milestones in this. One of them is writing your vision, and the other, I think, is developing your goals from your vision. And whenever Joan and I are leading a group into some sort of like strategy development procedure, this is kind of a framework of what we do as well. The things that you do in order to develop an organizational vision are the same things that you do in order to develop a personal vision. So uh, the uh, the procedure this took us through was, first of all, to identify and define your values. And it gave you a lot of options in your workbook that you could choose from to give you ideas, some common values. And then defining them for you, sort of personalizing them, make them for you, and then taking that and writing a vision. So I would like to hear some of your vision statements, your personal vision statements that came out of this. Who would like to share a personal vision statement that came out of this exercise? Somebody?
I'll go.
Okay. Okay, Karen, go ahead.
So, um, I value truth and integrity as a cornerstone of how I live my life, and being accountable in everything I do is extremely important. I also strive to be reliable and dependable to those I work with. Working as part of a team brings collaboration and exploration of differing ideas to bear and can be exciting. I'm sorry, someone's calling me. Yes.
That's okay.
Sandy,
Who-
I'll give you mine.
Go ahead.
I strive to do something in life
That'll
that's
be fine.
meaningful
Bye.
by behaving ethically and to incorporate my religion and spirituality.
So for you, your religion, your spirituality is part of who you are, and you incorporate that no matter, professional setting, personal setting, no matter what.
Yes, I try to. Sometimes it can be difficult because obviously, uh, you know, shouldn't be talking religion and politics and business, that type of thing. But I try to incorporate it. And I mean, I'm not hard over on it or anything like that, but I feel strongly that's part of my vision.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Who else? Who else had a vision that they'd like to share?
Open-minded and a listener. That's it.
Open-minded and a listener. I like that. It's very succinct and to the point. I've done this in several different forms, and for me, it goes back to all the different personality assessments I've taken, and all the different roles I've had over the years, and the things that those roles kind of had in common. And so my vision has always been around being a catalyst, being the one who guides, the one who facilitates. So leading a group into developing something that takes them from where they are to where they want to be. Um, Being the catalyst for individuals and organizations becoming more successful. It speaks to my role in it, sort of as the guide, as the facilitator. Anyone else want to share theirs? So from this vision, we can now start developing goals. And so there's all sorts of goals that you can have, all sorts of different types of goals. So just here's an overview of all the different things that you might have thought of while you were doing this. Goals related to your career, to your income, to your relationships, to what you want to learn, the hobbies you want to have, the volunteer activities you want to participate in, recreational activities, things that you want to buy, places that you want to go, your spiritual, health related, your educational related, things about you that you'd like to develop, your personal and professional development. So, what were some of your goals that came out of your, sorry, what were some of your goals that came out of this procedure? What goals did you identify for yourselves? Don't everyone speak at once.
Well, I'm trying to get a new program going.
Yeah.
So my goals, we're short staffed in the youth department in Swin. So my focus in the work world is, getting that, doing everything I can to get that started and up and running. So when we do get staff, they can have that is there and ready and ready for them to get going. And we've got some time, but time is short. Summer will be summer program. So summer will be here before we turn around. So
Yep.
that's my goal.
Okay. Was that goal, was that sort of connected to your vision?
Yeah, to be reliable, to be dependable, to work with a team. That's really important. And right now I don't have a team. I mean, I have a team in my other part of my job. I've got two hats, multiple hats that I wear. But this youth program is the one that weighs on me the most because I'm new to this, I'm relatively new to this position. And so we were successful last summer and I want it to be successful again. But even during a pandemic, we still have to kind of figure out how best to serve underserved youth. And then in a pandemic world, get them the soft skills they need, get them the things they need. I know what I want to do. I just need help. I need more people to help me do it.
Right. Who else? Who else was able to develop some tangible goals from this procedure?
Sandy, this is Alan.
Mhm,
I try to serve my community as best I can.
mhm.
I'm on the board of a local mental health service provider, and I try to reach out to the community in other ways that I can to try to be a good community partner and to try to serve my community, as I think we all should.
Mhm. So your goals are more community related.
Yes, yeah, I'd
Did,
like to look at it that way.
did anybody come up with a goal like really lofty, aspirational? Anybody want to climb Mount Everest? Got any adventure seekers here? Yeah, most of the time when we set our goals, they tend to be pretty mundane.
Well, I just have one goal, and that is to ride my motorcycle through the Chesapeake Bay Tunnel.
Really?
Yes, I want to do that this year, and that's what I plan to do. I know it's long. I have a fear, but I'm going to do it this year.
You have a fear of driving into the tunnel?
The distance of
Oh,
the tunnel. No, I
oh,
don't have a
okay.
problem with going in tunnels. It's just that it's a long tunnel, and it's going to cost me $15 to do it.
Yeah.
But once I get out, I'm not going back.
So tell me this. How difficult was this procedure for you? I know they laid it out step by step in the book, in the manual, but despite that, how difficult was this procedure for you?
I thought it was really hard.
Really? What
Yeah.
was?
Well, because they told you to pick 10
Hmm.
and then to narrow it down to 5. And that's like I was having a really hard time picking 3. That was, and
Yeah.
then making it, how to turn it into a vision and those kind of things. But the hardest part was the beginning part. Once I kind of got myself to focus on the 3, then it was easy. But it was getting it down to 3. That was
Yeah.
hard.
So did you find as you were going through this that the personality attributes that we explored last week influenced or shaped your vision? In other words, is your vision sort of an extension of who you are as a person? Anyone? Ellen says, I think so. Yeah. I
Yeah,
generally,
I think it definitely had an effect on my vision statement for sure. I think the personality attributes were a key player in designing a vision. For me, anyway, that's my personal opinion.
mhm. So did developing that personal vision first make it easier to set goals? Anyone? I'm going to have to start serving coffee. Rose says yes because you know what it is you're looking for. I will let me express it this way. I like that, Rose. The thing about a vision implicitly um, refers to where you want to go, where you want to be. This is what I aspire to. Okay? So if this is what I'm aspiring to, I need to figure out what is the roadmap that will take me from where I am now to where I want to be. And that's what the goals are. The goals are the things that help you lay out that roadmap, the things that you want to do for yourself along the way that will get you to that vision, to that aspirational place that you want to be. So ideally, having your vision first should make it a lot easier for you to set goals. So how else can you, what are some other ways you can think of to use this process?
After the training last week, I had a conversation with my daughter,
Mhm,
and I started implementing a couple of things that were used
mhm.
to make her think about what her goals were and how she could get to the goal she was getting to. So I kind of used it on her.
So you can help others now by helping them, develop their own vision.
It
What
also
about,
helped you understand how to talk about it, where it's not being uh, accusatory or anything like that.
Mhm,
It's more on a thinking side of things.
right. Do you think that some of your clients could benefit from going through this sort of process for themselves? Is goal setting something that your clients generally have a harder time with?
Yes, mainly because they don't realize what they can do other than what they've already done.
Right. Yeah, a lot of times uh, I find that people believe that what they can do is sort of defined by their experience, their direct experience, rather than thinking about the skills that they've acquired uh, through that experience that can be applied elsewhere.
I do for the youth, I've done a, kind of a job readiness, career exploration presentation. And I end it with setting goals, short, because youth, they can't see past, this week sometimes. So I
Hmm.
say that they need to chunk it, just do short-term goals. Where do you see yourself in a month? Where do you see yourself in 6 months? Where do you see yourself in a year? What steps do you need to take to get to that 1 month goal?
Hmm.
And it can be as simple as getting a part-time job. You just want to get a part-time job or finish a GED or, something that they can set as a benchmark, as a concrete. And I'm thinking, okay, you don't get there in 6 months. That's okay. Make it 9 months. It can move. It's a movable end goal. And if you
Right.
get there earlier, start your next goal earlier. So I do that when I'm talking to groups of young people.
Hmm. Good. Yeah, I think this is something that you can adapt um, to working with customers. Very few people have developed sort of a personal vision. I On the other hand, I know that a lot of leaders that I've worked with in the past sort of live their life by this procedure. They would develop a plan for themselves. They would essentially live their professional life by stringing 5-year plans together. So this is where I want to be in 5 years. Here are my goals that will help me get to that place in 5 years. When I get there, I'll think about where do I want to be in the next 5 years. And so they always are working like a 5-year plan to sort of move them through their career. Joan, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Nope, excuse me, I had to step away for a phone call real quickly. I'm back
It's
though.
okay. Okay, any questions about this? We're moving pretty good this morning. Any questions about the goal setting and visioning process? Okay, we are now going to start on communication skills, and trust me when I say what we're going to talk about today, we're just scratching the surface. You know, we could spend days talking about communication skills. And as a matter of fact, Joan and I did a workshop last year um, that was, I think it was 4 hours, just on being able to ask questions, just on learning how to ask the right questions. So you can spend, 16 hours on communication skills development easily. We're not going to spend that much on it today. So we're going to try to hit the high points, things that are going to oh, Fred just came in with a really good, refer to your chat here. Vision is like the destination point, whereas the goal is the GPS. I like that analogy. Sometimes we take the toll road where we pay a huge toll but shortens the distance, or take the local road that takes more time to get there. That's good. Thank you for that analogy, Fred. So communication skills are a great way to help sort of short circuit problems. Uh, and I tend to talk about communication skills in terms of problem solving a whole lot because the two are intertwined, the two are linked. And through our communication, or through our communication skills and habits, we can keep problems from happening in the first place. And one of the main things that we talk about when in our communication is empathy. We alluded to this a little bit earlier today. One of you mentioned putting yourself in the other person's shoes. This is what empathy is. So being able to put yourself in other person's shoes and then seeing things from their perspective. And because you bring something unique into it, you can use that. You can, even when you're looking at things through their perspective, um, and seeing where they're coming from, you can bring your perspective into it and help them see things that they might not be seeing. Um, so, in order to engender empathy, um, it's all about sort of connecting with the person you're communicating with. It's all about establishing rapport. And so here are some phrases to use. I hear this. I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Rephrasing things. I think you're saying this. Some phrases to avoid. I agree. Just agreeing with them, blindly agreeing with them, doesn't really make that connection. Rephrasing is a great tool, and we're going to do a little activity on that here shortly. Rephrasing is a way to immediately bridge communication gaps because it shows the person that you understand what they're trying to convey. I like to think of it in terms of, sort of like the communication bridge. When I think about two people communicating, there's the person who's thinking, what they say or what they're going to say. They think about it and then they say it. So there's the concept or thought they're trying to convey, and then there's the way they convey it through words and their body language and everything. And then the person who receives the communication interprets everything, and then they process it. So they hear it, they see the body language, then they process it, and then they interpret it in their head. And rephrasing it, giving it back to them, is a way for you to show them that you understand what they're trying to convey and give them an opportunity to clarify it in case you don't. And that's where this comes in. It's important to check that the other person is satisfied with your level of understanding. And so the technique I'm going to teach you here in a little bit is a really direct way of doing that. Regarding empathy, there are some misconceptions that people have. First one is that people always pay attention when you're speaking to them. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not, and sometimes they are processing what you're saying in a way that's different than you intend them to. Even when they say they're paying attention, they might not be. When somebody says, I know, they might not really know. And a lot of times if you feel like if you say something over and over, it'll make sure your listener understands. Nothing can be further from the truth. Communication is more than just sending and receiving messages. It's about understanding. It's about perceiving. And there are a lot of things that can get in the way of understanding and perceiving the message. Noise, culture, experience, emotion, mood, language, disinterest, education, vocabulary, and then I added this last one, your brain, or I should say the two brains involved, can serve as a real barrier. And this is something that I added to the workshop last night, and I'm going to send you this in the form of a handout after we're done today. We talked a lot about our behaviors last time from the DISC assessment. Communication is one of those things that comes out of how you behave. And a lot of times barriers in communication are created by your behaviors. And we refer to this as how well the different behavioral styles blend with one another. So I'm going to take you down here on the left column to sort of give you an idea of how well the behavioral styles tend to blend with one another. So a person with a high D can always communicate fairly well with somebody with another person with a high D. They also communicate well with people who are high I. They communicate pretty well with people who are high S and not so well with people who are high C. And the gap here between the D and the C, the tension there is that the D wants to communicate, the bottom line, get to the result quickly. The C wants to know how you got there, wants to know the procedure, wants to know the data and the analysis that led you to where you want to be. So they might want to take a lot more time than the D is willing to give them. So then the I, again, they blend well with the D and other I's. They blend okay with the S. They tend to not blend that well with the C, especially when it comes to talking about problems, because the I's tend to be more informal, more big picture, more more visionary. The C's tend to be more detail oriented, more precise. And again, they want to see that information, that data. And so a lot of times the C will find the I's communication lacking in the information that they really want to see. For the S blends pretty well, kind of okay with the D and the I. They blend really well with other S's and they blend well with C's. And then the C's, not so well with the D's and the I's. And again, other C's and S's, they blend well with. So this is sort of just, think of this as two people talking together who don't know anything about one another. There are going to be some natural communications barriers that they encounter based on their behavior. And this sort of lays out what you could expect typically. So the way I use this information, the way I use this understanding is to learn how to craft communication strategies for dealing with different people. In your report, in your DISC report, I think this is page 22, there's a page called Communication Insights for Others. So this is a page that you can give other people. You can say, hey, when you communicate with me, here are the things that you should do and here are the things that you shouldn't do. And this person, if I'm remembering it correctly, this person was high I, very high I. And so here are some things that, here are some things that Julie needs in her communication. Talk positively about people and their goals. Present your ideas and opinions in a non-threatening way. Make it informal. Put some extra time in your schedule for talking, relating, and socializing. And then here, when it talks about details, put the details in writing, but don't plan on discussing them too much. The high I doesn't really care that much about details. And then here are some things not to do. Don't be short-tempered, cold, or tight-lipped. Don't stick coldly to the agenda. Be flexible. Don't issue edicts. Don't leave the idea or plan without backup support. And I like to say that if you're on a part of a team and everybody on that team has taken the DISC Plus, you can assemble a book of these, just this page 22, so that you can craft communication strategies for communicating with everyone on your team. In general, though, here are some things that you can do in order to make your communications more effective, depending on who you're communicating with. If you're communicating with a high D, the high D is looking for results. So they want to see the bottom line up front. So be direct with them. Don't overrelate. Don't dictate. Talk to them as sort of an equal. Get through quickly. Give them alternatives. If you're going to they might challenge you because they are high D. If they do challenge you, you need to be able to present facts in order to support your opinion. And if you disagree with them, be prepared to back it up with facts. A high I, on the other hand, is looking for involvement. So if you're communicating with a high I and you want to connect with them, first of all, you need to really be friendly and act like you're enjoying the interaction. For some, it'll be easier to do this than others. Make your communications fun. Allow them the opportunity to talk. So give them room. Ask them questions. Ask for their thoughts. Keep things moving. Talk about the people aspect of what you're trying to convey. High S's, they seek security. So be authentic. Remember, high S's like things at a slower pace, so slow things down. Take some time to build trust. Focus what you're saying on the people aspect. Give them facts. When you're trying to persuade them, think consider the fact that they want um, to be given the opportunity to sort of move incrementally. The bigger the change, the harder it's going to be to get their support. So get small yeses, break things down into steps, and get them to sort of agree with and get commitment for the small steps along the way. And always listen to them. Don't dictate. Then the high C's, they want information because they're more analytical. So be thorough. Give them data. Don't touch them. Don't. Uh, ICs generally are not really into the interpersonal aspect of this, of the communication. Give them enough data. Be patient and slow. Reveal the implications. They also like alternatives, so give them alternatives. And don't get.
Sandy, this is really good.
Yeah.
I've never seen this. I've never seen this before. This is good. This is a really good way to apply these results.
Yeah. Being able to craft your communication based on uh, the temperament of the individual you're communicating with is sort of a next level skill. And it works really well when you know the person to the point where you can actually craft this. There are some little tricks that I can give you, and I'll send them. If you don't know the person's person, if you don't know their disc results, there are ways that you can estimate. And I'll give that to you in the form of a handout as well.
Yeah, I'd be really interested in that because being able to read somebody quickly is important.
Does anyone have any questions about this? Do you think that this would be easy to do or hard to do? More easy, more hard?
It's a little bit of both. I really like this page.
Mhm.
And of course, I couldn't figure out how to screenshot it, but
Oh, I'll send it. I'll send it to you.
okay. Some areas are going to be harder than others, but it gives you a direction,
Mhm.
and that's the part I like.
If you communicate with people the way they want to be communicated with, it helps build the rapport. It really helps make that connection. And
Sandy,
with go ahead.
question. Are we communicating with their natural style or their adaptive style?
You're communicating with their natural style. So this is the way they prefer to be naturally. Okay, let's move here. So let's see if we can start learning to remove barriers to communication. So we've been talking about empathy. So make that conscious decision to try to understand the person. Make that conscious decision to step into their shoes, see things from their perspective. Rephrasing and reframing is the technique that uh, enables you to communicate how well you understand what they're trying to convey to you. Um, a lot of times, and we're missing this a whole lot during COVID because we're not having the direct contact as much anymore. But there are also things that come out of body language. Um, you can get, you got a lot of information based on just their general facial expression, whether or not they're smiling. Always make eye contact and keep eye contact with your customer. And pay attention to how their body language affects their overall message. You, on the other hand, need to convey a message through your body language, and that is one of openness and being welcoming and confident and comfortable with them. A lot of times we let what's going on in the moment impact how we convey things through our body language. So if you're very busy, if you're very agitated, if there's something on your mind, that can really get in the way of conveying. And a lot of times, without knowing it, you might be expressing that in your body language. So be aware of these things. When you're listening to people talk, always understand that you are interpreting what they're communicating to you. You're interpreting what they're saying. And so as people talk, say to yourself, whatever they're saying, which means that. So you need to be conscious of the way that that you're interpreting. And then be clear in your own mind what you hope to achieve through your interaction with them. Take the lead in conversations whenever possible. We'll be talking here about asking questions. So have some questions that you're going to ask. Have sort of some conversation controlling questions, things that will open up communications between you. Make sure that you're understanding what they're saying by asking questions like why, what, where, when, who, and how. You need to be primarily the listener. So listen more than you talk less than you listen. And then leave room for them by using silence. Now, this is the topic that Joan and I spent a lot of time on last year, because questions, the ability to ask good questions, is one of our primary communications tools. And it could mean the difference between success or failure of an interaction. So the first thing we want to talk about is the difference between open questions and closed questions. Closed questions can be answered with a single word or two words, a simple yes or no. A lot of times, closed questions can be leading. If you ask a question of somebody that is closed, often they can ascertain the answer that you're trying to get from the question. Open questions are ones that don't have a simple answer. They give people a chance to explain or tell how they feel about an issue. And learning how to ask open questions is a key communication skill. And it's because they give us more information. They encourage other people to talk. We get opinions and we get ideas this way. Um, Open questions can help us determine if people have interpreted what we say correctly and vice versa. And they can help us arrive at a consensus much more readily. So, sorry about that. So, a good open questions like this first one here. What is your opinion? What do you think of this? That's open. It doesn't specify how we want them to answer. It leaves them a lot of room to just say what they think. How do you think we should solve the problem? What would you do if you're in my shoes? Tell me more about this, whatever you're talking about. So you're prompting them to give you more information and making it open so that they can go in whatever direction that they want. So here are some good open customer focus questions. What do you think we can do about this? What would you like me to stop doing? Would it be helpful if I did this? Suppose we were to do that. Help me understand where you're coming from. Can we set a time to talk about the changes we're prepared to make? I'm prepared to do this. Would that ease the situation? So between these two pages here, you can start crafting some customer-focused open questions that you can use sort of in your toolbox on a day-to-day basis. And always be able to keep the conversation going by adding these open questions. This is in the handout that I sent you. And I'm going to walk through this. If you've been in one of our sessions before, you might have seen this before. This is sort of something that combines a lot of the things that we've been talking about into an actual procedure that you can use when you're helping somebody to solve a problem.
Can I
So,
add one thing, Sandy?
sure.
One of the things I found interesting about this, the whole question of what kind of information do different questions elicit? When you're asking questions that have what, when, where, um, those kind of questions, they're really going to elicit more information. So it's more intelligence-based response. When you ask questions that have why and how, you're likely to elicit more of an emotion or a values-based response. So depending on what you want to hear from the person, that's how you kind of change up your question.
One of the things that we learned last year regarding asking questions was that the question why is sort of a double-edged sword for some of us. Sometimes I look at why as something that really helps you build empathy and make a connection because it helps you sort of get to the root. I think that I would like to be a carpenter. Well, why do you think you'd like to be a carpenter? And then you explore the why with them. What we found in talking to some of you was that why can be a very accusatory sort of, why are you in this situation with some of our clients? And it's something that you need to be careful about using. I had never thought about that before. Have any of you experienced that?
I just wanted to say too that why is often a question that women have trouble using. Not in that we get accused of being too direct or too confrontational. Oh, or maybe it's just me. But there is a gender overlay on that question.
Mm-hmm. Do any of you find that why questions are viewed by your clients as being confrontational or judgmental or accusatory?
I mean, yeah, none of my customers are coming to see me because things are going well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, like, how would I do like a why question? Like, why did you lose your job? Or, why are you homeless? Why are you a heroin addict? I mean, like, so I mean, I try to avoid, making them say anything that they don't want to, going back to our earlier conversation about dignity, where doesn't matter if, you stink and you're wearing a trash bag, or if you're wearing a suit and you're wearing cologne, you're going to be Mr. Smith, so I mean, I personally avoid that, but I mean, my job is probably different than other people's jobs.
I think why, in the way that we use why, the way that I use it a lot, it's in order to facilitate a discussion about possibilities. So, um, one of the most popular problem-solving techniques is called the 5 whys, and it's a procedure where you take a problem and you ask the why related to the problem to the point where it sort of shows a light on the root cause of the problem. And then from there, you can now see possibilities on how to solve the problem that really get to the root of the problem. But what I've learned is that, as you say, uh, the why question, uh, depending upon the situation of your clients, can be viewed as more accusatory or judgmental. And so it's sort of a double-edged sword and it's something to be handled a little more gingerly. So it might not be whether or not you use them, it's when in the process you would consider using a why question.
I try to reframe the why into a how.
Right.
How, or how did you come to that decision, or, what were the circumstances, or how? I try to avoid why. Because it does, it has a tendency, even though you're trying to, using your voice and, body language, you can make it a soft why, not an accusatory why, but still a lot of people take that word as accusatory.
Mm-hmm. So again, here is the procedure that I want to outline for you. It's a multi-use procedure. It has a lot of benefits associated with it. It establishes rapport, it gains clarity, it shows the person that you understand them and that you have a perspective that will help them. So somebody comes to you with a problem, and so you say, okay, tell me about it. And they just tell you what the problem is, and then you restate it to them as they said it, directly as they said it. That is a very important step, believe it or not. It shows that you have a direct understanding and that you're not trying to put your own spin on it. This is essentially where a lot of folks will short circuit the process. I don't know, you've probably encountered people who, once you say to them, we're having a problem with this, will immediately go to a solution and say, well, have you tried this? Or why don't you do this? And I find a lot of times that a lot of folks like that are high D folks, because they look at the problem and they immediately want to go to the solution without exploring the problem. This procedure forces you to explore the problem, because instead of saying, okay, here's what I think you should do, you say, tell me more about the problem. And then you let them talk about the problem a little more. And once you've gotten enough information, you ask them, so do you really mean that? And then you restate the problem in a way that clarifies it and gets to the root of the problem. And if the answer is no, you say, tell me more, and you repeat. And then you keep asking this question until you get a yes. And once you get that yes, you have established a very high level of rapport with them. And you have bridged whatever communication gaps that you have. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to experience this now. First of all, somebody here who has a problem that they're currently working on, I want you to tell me what that problem is. So let's start with step one. It could be anyone here. Tell me about your problem. Who has a problem? Could be a personal problem, could be a work-related problem, family-related problem. It's awesome. Nobody here has any problems. Life must be awesome. Who has a problem? Come on, somebody's got to have a problem.
Just don't know where to start, Sandy.
Something mundane.
I have to have oral surgery again this afternoon.
That's a problem?
It is. Yeah, because I don't have I have work to do.
Ah. So you say that you're having oral surgery this afternoon. So tell me
Yeah.
more about this problem.
Well, the last time I had, so this is the second part of a two-part surgical procedure to save a tooth that got knocked by a flying object. And I think it was a flying gardening object. And the nerve has died. And so the last surgery they did 2 weeks ago, I had a massive infection and I ended up losing like the entire week of work. It was terrible. And I can't do that this week and I'm nervous about it.
Yeah. So is the problem that the oral surgery is making you worry about whether or not you're going to be able to continue working
Yes.
unobstructed?
Yes, that's right. And whether I'm going to be able to meet my commitments this week for sure.
Okay. Okay, so we've really got to the root of the problem. The problem isn't the oral surgery. The problem is the impact of the oral surgery and your ability to make commitments. And the solution, obviously, is to hire me to fill in for you and help you get through that. So that was easy.
I thought I already did that.
So who wants to help me with a problem?
I think Brett
Okay,
wants
what's your problem?
Okay. Who was that?
Liam, or you've been calling me Bill.
Okay, okay. I'm sorry. You go by
No,
William.
that's
I'm
all right.
familiar
I
with
don't
you.
care. What's your problem?
My problem is that I don't know how I'm going to finish my uh, home remodeling project where I'm uh, putting in hardwood flooring.
Okay, so you were saying that the problem is you're not sure how you're going to get to the end of the hardwood floor project.
Right.
All right, so tell me more about it.
Well, the fact that I stuck my thumb in the table saw has made me think twice about the table saw. I'm afraid of it now, and I don't think I can use it. And if I don't have a means of doing rip cuts, I'm not going to be able to cut the wood uh, in such a way that it'll allow me to finish the project. So I'm afraid of the saw, but I don't know any other way of getting the job done. And I don't want to hire anybody to come in and do it because it's not that much work. But I also don't want to invest in a totally new saw just to do a little bit of cutting.
So you really mean that the problem is that you've basically lost the utility of the table saw, which is a central tool to completing the hardwood floors.
Yeah, sort of there. That's sort of it. I think it's more that I'm afraid of the table saw. That I don't see a way of being able to use it to finish, and I think that I ought to. I think that there ought to be a way. It's just that maybe because I had this accident that I keep reliving in my head, that I'm afraid of repeating the accident.
So I guess then the fear is the root of the issue, which seems very rational given your experience. So
Mhm.
perhaps there's a safety mechanism that can be employed.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. But yeah. So yeah, all right. So before you got to that solution, you actually asked questions and listened to me. And this is something, I mean, any of you who have communicated with me before know that I use this a lot because I will say different versions of this. So do you really mean that? I will say, do you really mean this? Are you trying to say this? Uh, and that's just a way of clarifying it and creating rapport. And it's something that I consciously learned um, probably about 20 years ago. And I've been using it, finding ways to use it in my communications on a regular basis so I get better at it. But anyway, I sent you a handout with that in it. So you've got something, and I suggest that you practice this and start finding ways to use it, because it just does so much to your communication, and it's an instant empathizer. It's an instant uh, way of creating rapport. So Billiam understands me now. I get, he understands me better, and I know that he understands me better because of what he said to me, that he's interpreted, and it's given me a perspective. It's given me a perspective on it that I might not have had before. Okay, any questions about this?
I just want to know if you appreciated all the thumbs up emojis I was sending to you.
Yes, yes. Thumbs up emojis.
There you go.
And I know this is actually not about the training, but they do actually make, I don't know, $20 things that, like, it's like a piece of steel and plastic.
Uh-huh.
Basically is a handle. And so you put the steel next to the saw blade and you're holding it like a couple inch, well, like kind of 6 inches away from the blade. And you should be able to find that at Home Depot and hopefully get on with your project.
Yeah, a lot of it though is in my brain, and the hand specialist I went to yesterday told me that it's a form of PTSD where you have a traumatic experience like sticking your thumb into a saw blade, and then you relive it in your head, and you it you can't sleep because it's like as soon as you're drifting off, this image appears in your head of your thumb going into a saw blade, but then he framed it for me really well yesterday, because he said, I want to show you something. He took me into the hallway and he had a picture on the wall of somebody who had a much worse table saw accident than me, to where it actually took half of his hand, and he had to reattach that half of his hand as part of the surgical procedure. And he said, trust me, you got off light. So you're very lucky, and it's not something that you should worry about. So I'm trying to take that to heart.
Well,
Do you use
I
that?
certainly wish you luck in your recovery from both ailments.
Yeah. And that your ability to play guitar has not been compromised.
Well, we'll see about that. It's going to be a few weeks before I can, since I'm not getting surgery. So we'll see.
Oh, I like Fred's question.
I didn't. Sorry, I didn't see it.
Which one do you prefer, a cut off finger or spending some money to hire somebody?
I think the money, uh, probably, but I'd much rather get over this fear and work through the fear and not have the cut off finger. Um, all right. So, the last topic that we have here is starting the conversation on dealing with difficult customers. While I was in the emergency room on Sunday, I experienced this with some of the people who were there, because, believe it or not, Upper Chesapeake Health System's emergency room is not a very efficient operation. They're the way that they will triage you fast, but then I mean, I had to wait for like 2.5 hours to get it into a room, and everybody there was experiencing the same thing. So I saw some of their customers um, expressing these things that we're going to talk about today. And I observed, since I knew that we were going to talk about this, I observed how the triage nurses dealt with the difficult customers. So what we want to do here. I'm going to get out of this so that um, I can write this stuff down as we're talking about it. What we want to do is to go over each of these customer behaviors, define what they are, and then come up with some ways to deal with them. So the first behavior here is when your customer is being abrupt. So when they're being abrupt, they speak quickly and they snap out orders. Are there any other things that you've experienced with abrupt customers before?
People think that I have a magic wand and that I can just give them everything that the government has to offer just by, I don't know, waving magic wand or typing into the computer or something. And obviously there's a process for it and they don't understand that always, especially first time customers. Oh, sorry. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay.
India says, already decided what the answer to the situation will be. So in the case of the abrupt customer, what are some of the things that you do to manage the situation? What do you include in your communications to try to diffuse the issue?
I try to explain that there is a process we have to go through and that the process is set by the legislature into law itself. So even if I wanted to do it immediately, I couldn't because it's illegal.
Okay. Denise says, wait until calm down.
Yeah, quieter and slower.
What else?
Well, a deep breath for sure. And not react.
Okay. Yeah, you diffuse. Denise's thought was that you're making the intentional effort to, okay, let's just calm down here. Wait till everybody's calmed down. Now, once we've calmed down, we can actually have an interaction. But we're not going to have this interaction while you're being abrupt with me. So, how about abusive? This person launches personal attacks on your ethnic background, age, gender, position, etc. They might use profanity. What any other things that you've had abusive people do to you?
Death threats.
Death threats. Really?
Yeah, sometimes my job is really fun. It's also very rare.
What do you do when you're dealing with an abusive individual?
Get to a safe distance.
Yeah. Secure your own personal safety first.
What else?
Well, Karen says don't react. Try to diffuse. I think that's true.
And ultimately, you need other people there. And especially if it's like an ethnic thing, then like go get somebody who isn't whatever you are, like to help diffuse that particular pressure point.
What about set some ground rules?
India says Liam's voice is enough to calm customers. Who's Liam?
That's me.
Oh, okay. Do you have a way about you?
I think I have. I try to be very patient.
Oh, okay. Denise says, agree with the statement and ask how I can help.
Yeah,
So,
that's good. You're taking them off guard.
so somebody, how hard is it going to be for you if they launch a personal attack on your ethnic background to agree with them?
That would not be an issue with me, mainly because of the fact that if I agree with them, that's something they're not expecting me to do. And
Yeah.
it diffuses whatever anger or abuse they want to provide because now they think you're crazy.
Yeah. You're right. I am a dumb bee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But I'm here to help you, so what can I do?
So,
There it is.
I like that, Denise.
so now let's deal with somebody who's just angry. They demand immediate action and they often use a loud tone of voice. This is the people who I encountered in the waiting room the other day who had been waiting for a long time and uh, they were angry. They demanded immediate action. I want you to admit my wife now because she's in pain. So
Yeah.
what else do you experience with them? What are some of the things that they express to you? How do they express these things to you?
Yeah. I mean, it's coming from fear. So what if you acknowledge their fear?
In addition to that, just acknowledge it. Because sometimes they just want to be heard. Acknowledge it. And then tell them what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So what is your attitude now as you're trying to diffuse the situation?
Praying and counting to 10 that I don't knock them out. No, but I agree with Karen, empathy.
Mhm.
When they express their frustration, you have to be empathetic.
I'm not sure who had said it, but when they were talking about acknowledging the fear, um, a lot of people have this idea that they can just bang on the door and yell and scream, and eventually somebody will throw them a bone to get them to go away.
Mhm.
And
This-
sometimes that's true, but other times, like it's really important to be a human and not, you know, a bureaucrat, basically. You know. And so I find that when people are very angry,
mhm.
usually they calm down when like you just ask them what's going on. I mean, not always, but it
Mhm.
usually works.
So this might be a good place to ask questions.
Yeah, but, yeah, I guess that's what I was getting at.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Here's what some suggestions from the from our backup material here. So when somebody's being abrupt, listen to what they have to say and be service oriented. Focus on what you can do for them. Speak quietly and be firm. This also because they're being abrupt, might be a good place to ask questions. Because a lot of times when you're abrupt, you're not conveying a lot of information. When somebody's being abusive, you need to be quick. Refuse to justify yourself. Stay calm and diffuse anger. So that the suggestion you made about the agreeing with them might be a really good way of diffusing the anger, just because you're sort of catching them off guard. If the abuse escalates, get your manager involved and record the events. Abuse to me is sort of the extreme end. You know, uh, this is sort of one step away from violence, almost. So just the common angry customer, listen closely to the problem. You know, apologize. Say that you're sorry. Uh, ask open-ended questions to gather more information. Stay calm. Don't take it personally. Remain courteous. And then at some point, propose an action plan and then do it. Okay, this is what I think we need to do, and then do it for them. All right, let us now move on to another set of 3, and this will be the last 3 that we do. The arrogant customer. They exhibit a superior attitude and like to remind you of your place. When I read this, I thought this is like a movie trope. I see this in movies and TV shows where, like, there's a crime scene and uh, the police are there and they're investigating, and then somebody pulls up in a sedan and comes out with a suit, and they look really important, and somebody comes up to him and says, "You're not allowed here. This is a crime scene." And then the guy pulls out a piece of paper and he doesn't even look at them. He just shows them the paper and say, "Talk to the judge. This is my crime scene now." That's a trope. I see that in shows all the time. It's annoying. What other ways of being arrogant have you experienced?
So I kind of feel like, when customers are arrogant, they kind of like think that they know everything. You know what I mean? They don't want to really hear what you have to say. It's just what they know.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They also figure that you're supposed to solve whatever issue that they have,
Mm-hmm.
like they want you to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not be the solution.
Right. So what do you do about them?
In my case, I guess it depends on the circumstances and what the issue is. I couldn't narrow that down for a direct answer.
How would some of you deal with this person?
I mean, sometimes you can't. I mean, like sometimes this gets into the abuse category, and so if somebody's just screaming at me over the phone, you say, or at least I said something to the effect of like, at this point, this is abuse, and I'm going to disconnect the call. Good night, or whatever. And then if it's in person, like, I mean, some of these people are the ones that are, banging on desks and throwing stuff. I mean, sometimes you just can't communicate if somebody doesn't want to communicate.
What else?
Just step away and say,
How,
"Oh, you know what? Give me a second. and I'll be right back with you. And they think that you are doing whatever they need to do, but you're just stepping away for your own sanity.
Ellen says, don't interrupt them. Let them talk.
Yeah, let them talk and just let them get through their little tirade without interruption, and hopefully it'll end.
Okay. What about the India says abusive callers have often been transferred to my line for me to take over. Wow. India, you have a way of dealing with abusive callers? Brittany says, ask what they think should be done or how they think it should be handled. India says she has a calming demeanor over the phone. Good. I could use that from time to time. I do not have a calming demeanor. To be honest with you, when I encounter arrogant people, first of all, I try to be careful that I'm not one of those people. And then the other thing is when I encounter arrogant people, I tend to be sarcastic to them. So it's not my interaction doesn't necessarily diffuse it. Uh, and maybe that's something I need to work on myself. Linda says, when I'm dealing with arrogant folks on the phone, I typically let them know I'm going to review their case and call them back. So let's talk about the bully bossy person. They put you on the spot. They enjoy baiting or teasing you, and they may insult your products and services. How else? What other behaviors have you encountered from a bully boss?
I feel like sometimes like it can be intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Try to intimidate you. What else?
I don't know what I think they would fall into this category, but way old military term. Used to call them sea lawyers. They're people who know everything about your job and all the laws and all the procedures, and like obviously nobody likes those people.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way to do that is I agree with them, and then basically go through the process, and then if you know how we do things here, then you know that there's a process.
Okay. How else would you deal with them? Brittany says, kill them with kindness. What else? Any other techniques that you've used against bullies? Focus on the issue. Good. Focus on the issue, ignore ignorance.
Maybe call in reinforcements, because once you get another person with you, um, You both can kind of try to diffuse and, explain
Mm-hmm.
the process. If you're in person, it's easier to do when you're in person. It's hard to do on the phone.
Yeah. Okay, these are good. Stand your ground. So let me give you just a little observation about the bully boss mentality. I don't like to generalize based on behaviors and things. Um, so I'll clarify to say I do not believe all high D people behave this way. However, I have noticed that some high D people can come across as a bully because they are very demanding and challenging. And so standing your ground is a really good way to respond to that because a lot of times somebody with a high D is looking for you to stand your ground and defend yourself and support your position. And often they'll respect that. It's very annoying from my perspective because uh, I'm more of a low D, but I understand it. I understand that behavior. So a lot of times, standing your ground is a good way of earning respect for the person who might come across as a bully. Close-minded. This is the person that puts up barriers to understanding, displays a "prove it to me" or the Missouri attitude, the "show me" attitude, and often has a hidden agenda. What else have you experienced with people who are close-minded?
Well, I think the thing I guess I get most. I'm going to try to put this delicately, but one of the things old and people in this category will say to me is, uh, "Well, if I were black or Mexican, you would do this for me." And like, and so like, there's a lot tied into that, and it has to do a lot with like cultural perception of what we do, and clearly a lot more baggage there. But I guess I don't have a good answer for that one. I always just try to assure them that I do it the same. And if you look at food stamp distribution, it is pretty equal to
Mm-hmm.
racial distribution of the country. So tell everyone you know.
Do you find that closed-minded people often think that they know all the answers? We keep coming across know-it-alls here, but or maybe do you think that they simply are so pessimistic that they don't believe there's a solution?
I think that this gets back a lot to needing someone to blame. And if that default position was always blame the government, then it's easy for them to come back to that, I find.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it, yeah. So, I mean, obviously, we do as much as we can to help everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, some people really are just in that they come to me not for help, but to blame me, basically, for what happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because they're all victims.
So what do you do about the closed-minded person? How do you eliminate those barriers and deal with them?
Try and open them up to new ideas.
Yeah, empathy is always a great way to make that, establish that connection to show them. And when you show empathy, you're also building trust. So somebody who comes to you who's closed-minded, you might have a high barrier to getting them to trust you. and therefore to listen to what you might be able to do to help them. So you have to get past this thing that is causing them to be closed-minded. And then opening them up to new ideas might be a matter of finding what it takes to get them to accept new ideas. So for somebody who's the high C, um, the high C person, for instance, the procedural person, a lot of times new ideas are a source of fear. And I don't want to stray from what I know. And so if my problem is uh, is related to the fact that I don't have all the answers to everything, sometimes I need to be shown that. And I need in order to open them up to new ideas, I might have to provide more evidence. You know, this type of thing works. It's worked with here are some other clients that I've had, and maybe be able to provide some form of testimonial to get them to get past that closed-mindedness. So their burden of proof is much higher. Is there any other thing that you can think of? I'm going to add that offer proof. Okay, let's review then what our resources have to say about this. So, for the arrogant person, know your job and do it well. Okay, so you can sort of you can weather their superior attitude by knowing your job, knowing it better than they know it, and doing it well. Know your products and services, but still be professional and courteous. To deal with the bully boss, be firm and stick to business. Remember when I was talking about this person might be a high D. The high D person wants you to stick to business. You know, just the facts. Get there. This might be a good time to ask close directions to redirect the attack. So ask questions that are yes, no answers to to redirect that attack and get them going in another direction. And again, keep being professional and courteous. And then for the closed-minded individual, listen. Listen to them. If they have a hidden agenda, in listening to them and asking questions to probe for hidden reasons, those open questions, you're going to reveal that hidden agenda, and then you might be able to figure out now a pathway to reaching them, to get around those barriers, and acknowledge and empathize with their concerns. So, do we have any questions about this? Do we have any questions about dealing with difficult customers? Because for our homework for Friday, session 13 is dealing with difficult people. So now that we've gone through this, we're going to go through, again, looking at some types of folks that you might have encountered and developing strategies on how to deal with them. And what I'd like you to do for this is to actually come up with some strategies for these and then email them to me. Email them to me by the day before so that I can take a look at them. And then session 14, I'd like you to read session 14 in advance. We're not going to do session 14. We're going to do, because there's 2 sessions on being a problem solver, but there's some very general problem solving skills and techniques in this session that I'd like you to go over. And also, I'm going to send you the link to our creative thinking and innovation workshop, because that is all about problem solving. If you need to go into more depth in just general problem solving techniques, because problem solving is another topic that you could spend days on. My training in problem solving involved going out to Colorado and spending 8 16-hour days in a workshop on problem solving. So we're going to be spending less time than that on problem solving. And for also, this is what we're going to be covering in our last day on Friday, session 12, which is dealing with challenges assertively, and then going over the 7 steps to customer problem solving. And then the 5th critical element, which is how to measure it. So once we get through this, we will have covered all the things that you said you wanted to cover, and then we'll recap. So are there any questions before I let you go? Once again, we've hit it right on the nose. I'm shocked. Any questions before I let you go? I'm hearing a whole lot of nothing. All right, everyone. Thank you for attending. If you've got any questions, you can email me, and I will try to get everything out to you here within the next day or so. So have a great rest of your week, and I'll be thinking about you.